Hi, welcome to Binary Automation. So in this tutorial, we'll talk about what YAML file is, how do we write YAML file, how do we validate a YAML file. For full form of YAML is yet another markup language, or YAML ain't markup language, right? So basically it's used to serialize your data, primarily used in all the configuration files. You can see it in Docker, you can see it in Kubernetes, you can see it in Azure, other places where you want to configure your data or you want to pass data, you still want to serialize the data, right? So let's get started. So I've created a file here called sample.yaml, right? So the extension and can end with either YAML or YML. Yeah. So let's see how we can write the different structures, data types in YAML. And so the whole thing about YAML is based on indentation. You can actually write your objects, your key value pairs, and the way it's like more of a Python style indentation, right? The way you write. So let's get started, right? So for example, I have something like name, and I can write a string here called binary. Yeah. So I can either put this in double quotes. I can keep it in single quotes, or I cannot. I need not have it at all, right? So it'll understand that this is a string. Yeah. Similarly, you can have say age, which is an integer actually, right? So you can give a number directly, a number or a decimal, right? Any or a negative number, anything will anything is fine. Similarly, you can have a boolean value as well, right? So something like is like married. Yeah, just an example, right? So you can give it as true and false, or you can actually also give it as the other combination of your boolean is on and off as well. So you can give on for true, off for false, right? So that's another thing that we have. By the way, we can also write comments here. Okay, so by commenting, the way you comment is by putting a hash. So we can say that we can use on and off as boolean 2, right? Okay. The next the next thing that we can try is the date. The date as such, there is no specific format for date, but the general rule that is followed in YAML is that we have the year followed by the month, right? And the date, the like the current date, right? So that's how this is handled as well. Yeah. So let's look at other things that we can do in YAML. We currently have something like creating objects, right? So objects are nothing but in general how you create objects is basically you can say something like my obj. Okay, and now here's the interesting part. So if you want to add key value under this object called my obj, you cannot start right at the place where my obj started. You can put a tab or you can put a space, okay, and then you need to write this. So if I say that key, something like my key and my value. Yeah, you cannot give spaces, sorry. So this is how you actually would write my key, my value. So you can write any data type here. Say you want to say an pin code, like something like pin code here, and you can give some random name number here, right? So this is how an object is defined. So objects dictionary, it's actually it's used interchangeably. You can name it as you can say it as objects or dictionary as well. Yeah. So now there's also a concept of adding list, right? So you can define list as well. So I can say that my list, and there are two formats you can define my list, right? One format is the standard way that we are aware, right? So if you're writing say something in JavaScript, right, you can write something like 10, 20, and then you can even define different data types within this, right? So I can have say like hello, this is a string, and you can write boolean 2. Yeah. The other way that you can write is, I'll say something like my list one, which this is the way generally it is followed in the YAML structure. Yeah, so I can put a dash, and I can write my list here. So the same thing I can do here: 10, 20, and I can say like I can write like say my string. You can, I mean the double quotes is optional, but I'm just writing it so that like, just to make sure that there's a string. Yeah, and then you can write a boolean as well. Yeah, so you can do this. Now, if you see the dash over here, it it's not starting from the mylist place, right? So you can even start from here as well, right? Mylist 10, 20, my string false, all needs to start at this place. Yeah, so even this is applicable. So even this is fine. The indentation is fine. But the only caveat here is that you cannot have one starting at this position, the pole position, and then the other starting slightly different. So then this you cannot have this kind of indentation. So all need to either start. It should align on the same line. Yeah. Similarly, you can have a list of objects as well. So what you can do is you can have something like right, something like employee list. Okay, I'm defining an employee list, and I'm trying to write certain list here. Okay, so I'll say that uh, employee one. Okay, and name it something like John. Okay, and then yeah, so this is okay, but and then you have another employee. The age of that employee is 40, right? Sorry. So what I'm trying to say is that you can have an object, and within that you can specify the what kind of employee it is, right? Within this object. So I'm saying employee one is John, age is 40. Then I can have another employee. Okay, employee two with a name as Kim, and I can say the age as 50, something like that. Yeah, so you can create an object as you can create a list within the object as well. Yeah. Finally, the other thing that you can some other thing that you can do is you can actually create multi-line string, and the way you tackle is you can say like multi-line. Okay, and what you can do is you can actually use a pipeline symbol here. What this pipeline symbol will do is that it'll execute, or it'll display the line as it is in the format that you're writing over here. Okay, so I can write this as, say, this is my first line, and this is my second line. In fact, realistically, this is primarily used, in for example, you have your bash script, if you, or you're running any scripts on Windows Server, or any places, or you can do something like mkdir, like in a directory name. Okay, uh, dir 1 2 3 4 5, something like that. Okay, and then you can actually give some you can run certain command grep it grep, and based on certain values you can find a file name, star dot file name, something, right? So so you can do any kind of thing that you want, right? So this is how exactly it will be displayed. It will just execute that command one by one. Okay, so obviously I'm just giving an example here, but ideally if you take if you consider a fact from an Azure pipeline side, you will have a script tag, and under the script tag you will have all this commands written, right? So I'm just giving an example how this can be used. Yeah, so the other way that you have is you can say something like lengthy string, and what you can do is you have something called a greater than equal greater than symbol. So what this will do is, even though you're writing your string like this is the first line, yeah, and then this is the second line. Okay, although you're writing an individual line, but it'll consider that a lengthy concatenated two lines, like this is the first line space, this is the second line. So it'll remove all the leading and trailing spaces, and then just add that line, those two lines. Yeah. And finally, what you can do is you can add references the way you add references is you can say something like my obj1. You can pass references. So you have defined an object and you want to pass that object references somewhere else, right? So let me just show you that as well. So my object one you can pass an ampersand here and then do a myref, like you can pass this, and then you can pass the key value pairs here. Yeah, so something like key 1 value 1, key 2 value 2. Yeah, so this will give you the, let me just correct this, key 1 value 1, key 2 value 2. Yeah, so now you got this, and now you want to reference this my object 1 somewhere. Okay, so the way you do is you have something called something else, get object. You can pass, you can give any random name. Okay, and I'm going to run a tab. I can do less than colon space star and then my ref here. Okay, and then you can just do key 3 colon key 3 colon key, or like value 3. Yeah, value 3. So this is how you generally do it. And so basically what it does is, this get object, what it does is, it'll find what are the keys, or what are the list of keys within this my object here. And the way this is referenced is my ref, right? So it will place here. So then eventually the total output of get object will be key 1, key 2, and then key 3. Yeah, and finally one last thing that you can actually do is with respect to uh, parameterizing or getting the value, right? So like in generally, right, if you see an Azure YAML file, or if you see certain Kubernetes file, you might have certain variables, right? So I'm just giving an example, right? So you'll have something like variables, and the variable will define like my var colon value something like that. Yeah, so whenever you're assigning some value, right, assigning variables or assigning some references, so what you have to do is, this is generally followed in most of the config file, right? So the way we can reference is, you can give something like myvar here like this. Yeah, within a dollar symbol. Yeah, right. So you can give this, and in certain case you can even assign environment variables as well here, right? So the way it does is, you can actually give double quotes, you can give the brackets here like this, right? You can give the brackets here like this, and assign environment variables at runtime that you get, and env dot crs dot something something, right? So like whatever uh, values are there, env dot build dot any branch, something like that. Yeah, so whatever at runtime for the specific tool that you're using, you can get the environment variables and assign it. So this is actually how you do different ways of this. In fact, if you understand this, then irrespective of what kind of configuration file, under what kind of technology you're using, the YAML will be constant, right? So let's see. So if I copy this now, okay, Control A, Control C, and go to YAML, paste this on a YAML editor, like validator, right? So there are so many YAML validators are there. There are a bunch actually. So you can actually reference any of it. Yeah. So let me just go this and click on OK. Okay. So it says line 81. There is an issue here. Okay. Yeah. So if you see this, uh, this is something that I didn't do it properly, right? So if I do this and then click on go, see my YAML is valid, right? So I made certain errors, and then this is rectified. So this is how it can be. So if, for example, if you remove a colon here and then click on go, it will throw an error saying that there's an error on line 35, right? So this is how you can actually try in multiple ways. Now fine, one thing that we can do is, we can just see how a basic Azure YAML pipeline is written, just quickly to go through that what you have studied, does it make sense that everything is covered here, right? So we have a trigger here, right? So this is like a single value, a list called master, right? So don't forget about the contents of the YAML, like the Azure YAML file. Just check on the syntax, right? So this is a basically key. It's an object with key and value. You have this variables declined here with a lot of keys and value. Then you have something called steps, and within the steps, as I told you, you have a script here, and this is a pipeline symbol, right? So what it does is it will execute all these commands in a serial fashion, right? And it's considered as an individual statement, individual line, right? And similarly you have different tasks over here, which is a list, and within this you have an object, and within that you have key value pairs, right? Similarly the same thing goes over here. You have something called publish. You have a publish, which is a list, and then within that, like, there is like publish artifact and displays there. Yeah. So this is generally how you know that, even if you see a docker file or a kubernetes file or docker compose file, you'll know that, once you are done with this standard structure, you'll be able to write any kind of YAML file. Yeah. So hope you like the video. Thanks a lot.